Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, which is a Tiger King reference, because I am both hip and with it. Today we are doing something, and this makes me sad, but it has nothing to do with triangles. We're going to talk about squares and rectangles, which are admittedly pretty cool, but not triangles. Don't worry yourselves, we'll get back to triangles tomorrow. Having completed our trigonometric ratios, being able to find missing sides and missing angles, we are now going to move on to calculating things like perimeter and area. Eventually circumference of circles, volume of three-dimensional shapes, but today we're just going to chill at perimeter and area. Okay? There are two basic shapes that you need to know for today: squares and rectangles. And for both, the calculation is going to be pretty much the same. Okay? For area, base times height for both squares and rectangles. And perimeter, so here's the deal with perimeter, is I could write a formula for both squares and rectangles, but they got four sides. For perimeter, just add them all up. It's going to be easier to remember. And it applies to everything. Okay, so when we get to perimeter tomorrow, I can give you the area, a formula for the area, or for the perimeter of a triangle. But it's going to be faster and easier to add up all the sides. For squares, just add up all the sides. Rectangles, just add up all the sides. Okay, that's what we're looking at with perimeter. Okay, so it is technically the distance around the outside of the shape. Like I've talked about, we just got the fence put into our backyard. The fence, I need to know the area around that space. So that's the perimeter. Okay, the area around is how much fencing I needed. I didn't need to calculate how much area is inside of the fence because the fencing company doesn't actually charge me for that. They charge me for how much the fence was. Okay, area is the amount of space inside the fence. Okay, so that's a good way to remember these. Area, how much space is inside the fence. Perimeter, how much fence was there. Okay, so that's what we're looking at today. I want to start our conversation then with these two shapes on rectangles. Okay, so I'm going to draw us a rectangle. And most of us have a pretty good sense of what a rectangle is and what a rectangle looks like. Okay, but the defining characteristics of a rectangle is it has four sides, it's parallelogram, meaning that all of the sides are parallel to each other, and we've got four right angles. That's the important piece. Okay, you have to have four right angles. Have to, and that'll be true for squares too. Okay, a rectangle is a four-sided shape with four right angles. Donezo. Okay, so let's calculate area. Let's calculate perimeter. Let's say this is 4, and let's say this is 6. Now, this is a feature of rectangles, and it'll be true with squares as well, that the opposite sides will be congruent to each other. So this rectangle, because I've got these four right angles, 4 means that this side will also be 4. If this is 6, this side will also be 6. Okay? Area is base times height. This is my base. This is my height. Okay? So my area will be 6 times 4, or 24, and I should have some units in there. Not gonna. Okay? So my area is 24 units. Okay? Base times height. Excuse me. My perimeter. Add up all the sides. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. 16 plus 4 is 20. 20 units. Something that I want to point out, though, and this is probably one reason why I should have units. So let's just make these inches, I guess. Okay, we're going to call these inches. Area is in inches squared. Perimeter is just in inches. And let me show you really quickly what I mean by that. In order to split that into 3, I need to do this. Okay. Okay, let's assume that all of these boxes are the same size. They're not. But let's pretend like they are, and that I can draw and have some art skills. 1 inch squared. So this is 4 inches. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 inches. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. 1 inch squared is that box right there. Okay? And what we have calculated is that this area, which is 24 inches squared, is that this space will have 24 of those boxes. Because we've got 6 over, 4 up, 6 times 4 is 24. If you count, you'll have 24 boxes. Okay. Perimeter is how many inches, and it doesn't have a second dimension. It's just how far around the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. We've moved 20 spaces around the outside. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about area and perimeter. Area is how many boxes do we need to fill in, and that's a 1 inch squared box. Okay. Perimeter is how many inches do we need to measure around the outside. Area is something that you would use when trying to calculate like how much paint you're going to buy. It's always one of the first questions when I have to buy paint for a set or for my house is how much paint does a gallon of paint cover? And generally they tell me, although I don't know it off the top of my head. And then that helps me know how many gallons of paint I'm going to need to buy. I'm doing this a lot today. Sorry. So that's what area is. Okay? This is a rectangle. Now, a rectangle, like I said before, is any 4-dimensional shape, any enclosed 4-dimensional shape. Sorry, there are a lot of really picky terminology things that you don't really need to know. Any enclosed 4-dimensional shape with 4 right angles. A square, we all know what a square looks like, is also a 4-dimensional or a 4-sided shape. I've been saying dimensional. 4-sided shape with 4 right angles. The difference is, for a square, all of my sides are going to be congruent. Now, what that means is that a square is technically a rectangle, because if a rectangle is any 4-sided shape with 4 right angles, a square is a rectangle. But a rectangle cannot be a square because a square also requires those 4 congruent sides. So all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are going to be squares. Think of it this way. All students that are in my class are Cambridge Asante High School students. That's true. You're in my class. You're a Cambridge Asante High School student. But not all Cambridge Asante High School students are in my class. Okay? It's a group where one subgroup is always part of the other bigger group, but the bigger group is not always necessarily part of that subgroup. Squares are that little subgroup. Okay? So, same thing. We're using the exact same formula here. Base times height for area, and just calculate everything around the outside. I'm going to make that 7. All the sides are congruent, so you only need to be given one side. So 7, 7, 7, 7. Ah! Area then is my base times my height, which will be 49. I'll just say that these are still inches squared. And my perimeter will be 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, which is 7 times 4, but you can't use that same thing with rectangles. Again, that's why I'm not giving you the formulas. Just to add them up quick. The sides are not so many that that's not going to take you a long time. So 7 plus 7 is 14, 21, 28. And that's what we're shooting for today. Okay, tomorrow we're going to be looking at area and perimeter of triangles, which is going to be a slightly different formula, but related. I'm at about 10 minutes now, so I do want to give you one practice problem with immediate feedback. So let me doodle. Let's say this is 6. Let's say this is 13. First question, is it a square? But is it a rectangle? Good. Calculate the area for me. Go. All right, area, remember, is just base times height, so 6 times 13 is 78. I'm assuming I'm doing my mental math right there. And feeling pretty good about it. Perimeter. Go. All right, I'm just going to fill in the missing sides here. So this is also 6, so this is also 13. And then I'm just going to calculate my way around. 6 and 13 is 19, plus 6 is 25, 28, 38. I'm just going to throw let's pretend that I'm working in inches. Okay. So hopefully that went well for you. Homework is supposed to go ahead and jump on that. And I'll see all of y'all. Actually, if you're keeping up to date, there's no class on Friday or Monday. So if you've got an appointment, I'll see you Thursday. But otherwise, I'm not going to see y'all until Wednesday. It's forever. You'll miss me. And that's understandable. I'll miss you too. Have a good one, guys.